If you've been playing the Dungeons update at all since its release, then you surely would have encountered and picked up a dungeon journal entry. So if you look in your quest tab in your Skyblock menu, there's an icon on the bottom that's called the Dungeon Journals, where you can see all the pages for each story you obtain while running dungeons. Now, so you may be wondering, what the fuck is this? I only came to play dungeons, not read a whole story. Who the fuck even cares? And well, the answer to that is me. I care. And apparently the rest of my Dungeons party too, since they've been thirsting after these pages ever since I completed the whole collection of journal entries. And yes, you heard me right. I was insane enough to complete the entire collection of dungeon journal entries in all their pages. I'll leave a link to a forum post I found containing all the pages and summaries for each entry in the description below, so be sure to click that if you want to read all the stories without having to go through 30 runs to find that one room that gives 3 goddamn pages. And also, while you're down there, please feel free to subscribe with notifications on so you don't miss out on these kinds of videos. And anyways, let's get started with explaining the significance of the dungeon journals and how they connect with the world of Hypixel Skyblock. Please note that anything that I say in this video that isn't directly in the text of the journal entries is just speculation and are all just my thoughts and ideas. None of my ideas are confirmed by any of the Hypixel staff team, so please keep that in mind when watching this video. And now with that out of the way, let's actually begin the video. Alright, so from Cariel's diary, we know that in Cariel's time there was an organization called the Mage Association that dealt with evil magic, supposedly. And I'm guessing that this organization gathered at the Wizard's Tower next to the mountain and the Hub Island, since that's the only place so far that we've seen that has any relevance to magic and wizards. Aside from this, there isn't that much else to gather from this story, except that she discovered that, quote, the tombs had been destroyed, someone had dug up the bodies. Who would do such an evil thing? Which obviously signifies that someone has been in the catacombs and messed up the place. So from this entry, we learn of another organization called the Adventurers Guild. While we aren't given many details about them, I'm assuming that they were once gathered in the Guild HQ house in the village that we see today. Or they may have gathered in the island past the gate on high level, which we know has something to do with guilds, but we don't know exactly what it is. Something that may connect the previous entry and this entry together is the zombie that Dr. Miles studied. The zombie was described as resembling, quote, an old female seeming to have originally died from old age, which may have been the same as the zombie of Cariel's grandmother that she saw in the catacombs in the last entry. The abnormal healing that she shows resembles how the zombies rapidly heal when they aren't being attacked in present-day catacombs too. And also, there's a place known as the castle that is referenced when noting the last appearance of the zombies in their timeline. And somebody named Kaiman, who, quote, returned to the castle, which implies that they were originally from there or came there once before. The only place in Skyblock where there seems to be a castle of any kind of sort that isn't associated with evil or any of the dark arts is the ruins, meaning that the ruins was once a castle, which it did seem to resemble if you look at its architecture. From the third entry, the Expedition Volume 1, we find out that there was once a king ruling over the castle with his court. This could have been King Midas, who we can fight as an undead in the catacombs in present day by opening his crypt, but who knows. Also, they mention that the garrison that the king sends in is to leave right as the rooster crows, but the weird thing is, there's no roosters in Minecraft. Are they just extinct, or does Hypixel know something about Minecraft that we actually don't? I don't know. I know it's a common expression, but like, I know it means to leave in the morning or at dawn, but couldn't they have just changed it to that? Couldn't they have changed it to say right as the chicken clucks, just for context? Anyways, we're getting off topic. Let's get to the next entry. In the fourth entry, Uncanny Remains, we learn of a fateful day where tens of thousands of soldiers died, which heavily implies that there was a war waged on that day, and that the zombie soldiers and zombie knights that we fight in the catacombs today are the people who died on that fateful day. We are also introduced to the Wither King, who is mentioned in this story, and to me implies that he is responsible for those tens of thousands of deaths on that fateful day. Lastly, it would seem that the garrison entered the room with the green talking skulls, and the writer mentions that, quote, those shadows are deceiving me, which might be hinting at a shadow assassin. But it's unlikely since they only just entered the catacombs, meaning they're on floor 1, and shadow assassins have only been known to appear on floor 3 so far. The fifth entry is the Expedition Volume 2, and from this entry, we learn that the tombs were looted and ransacked by what seems to be human activity on the second floor. Strangely though, the garrison finds that all the trails and footsteps lead to absolutely nowhere and are all dead ends. This is all pretty strange since in the present day, all the crypts are intact, but they're undead all over the place. The fact that the trails that they found led nowhere may also imply that the walls are shifting around, which could be a reference as to why each dungeon run is different and why the rooms are randomized in the present day. In Grim Adversity, the 6th entry, the garrison gets attacked in the middle of the night by what seems to be a zombie with insane strength, since just the grip of its, quote, run hand was enough to break the writer's arm. Its description of no eyes, barely any skin, and, quote, the face of death, could relate to the group being attacked by a shadow assassin since they don't have eyes and they dropped the item called Silent Death. But that would also mean that shadow assassins are undead mobs. According to the Hypixel Skyblock wiki, the effective enchantment on shadow assassins does say smite, but the argument against the creature actually being a shadow assassin is that it dropped bits of Albert on the writer from its jaw, meaning that it bit a chunk out of him, and shadow assassins mainly attack with their weapons, not their mouths. I'm not exactly sure what to make of this, but one thing is for sure, the creature that attacked them was definitely an undead. The next entry is the Expedition Volume 3, where we get confirmation that the thing that attacked Albert in the last entry was indeed a zombie, which somehow, quote, ended up on the other side of the crypt that we thoroughly investigated only hours before, which again could hint at the teleportation powers of the shadow assassin, but it's still uncertain. We also learned that the zombies can still control their detached body parts until the amygdala of their brain is destroyed. A liquid was also found on the writer of Grim Adversity's arm that could be a clue or the cause as to how the undead are being reanimated. At least is what I'm assuming the writer of this entry means by transformations. As the garrison reaches the end of floor 2, they face a wither skeleton that cuts down 3 of their men. The writer then tells us a very interesting bit of information. That there were wither skeletons involved with the attack on the castle centuries ago, led by Kaiman, who is revealed to be the Wither King, the one even stronger than the floor 10 boss Necron. He seems to have taken hold of the catacombs, so maybe we'll one day be able to fight him in the present day, in possibly master mode or some sort of bonus fight after beating floor 10. The wither skeletons are described to have, quote, bones akin to onyx, seemingly fragile but as tough as steel, and the one that they fought was holding a stone sword and, quote, was strong enough to cut through a man wearing full armor on a single swing. These descriptions fit the wither skeletons we can find in the Blazing Fortress in present day, but their strength has much to be desired compared to the descriptions the writer provides about their strength. This could be hinting that in later floors, we may face wither skeletons that are as strong as mini-bosses on the earlier floors to fit these kinds of descriptions, so we probably should get prepared for that. So in the 8th entry, the Expedition Volume 4, the expedition group finds what is the floor 3 boss room in present day, since the room was described as, quote, a large room, probably the largest one yet. The room had giant water pipes landing into large pools. After a soldier yells out that enemies were coming, we learn that the creatures were capable of coordination, probably due to some necromancer somewhere. There were giant spiders, zombies, and skeletons in the ambush, and after the writer, who seems to be a mage, escapes with a small group of soldiers, the writer feels a presence watching over them, which we can assume is the Watcher. One of the soldiers that then gets mind controlled and proceeds to try and kill his comrade before the rider stuns him with a stun spell. Page 10 of this entry is missing, seemingly ripped out, since page 11 ends with bloodstains, making us assume that the rider gets attacked or killed when writing this. A little notable thing on page 11, though, is that the writer mentions that, quote, the Catacombs hide an army of incredible strength, signifying that we are going to be in for a real challenge moving on in the later floors. The second to last entry is the walls, and in this entry, the expedition group is desperately trying to hold off the hordes of undead running at them when another wither skeleton shows up. The skeleton was described as being wicked fast, which may be what we should expect when we inevitably see them on later floors. So mages, prepare to spam Frozen Scythe while hitting with Venomous and using your voodoo dolls to slow these guys down. Anyways, General Dan is able to one-shot the wither skeleton with his mighty strength, but not long after that, a creature described as looking, quote, half human and half wither skeleton, with multiple heads, shows up. The writer then describes the creature being able to levitate and cast dark spells with its scream. This might be a boss of a later floor that we could fight later, such as Maxor, the floor 7 boss, Goldor, the floor 8 boss, or maybe even Necron himself, the floor 10 boss. Nevertheless, the spell one-shot General Dan in an instant. The writer then escapes the situation alone and tries to find the entrance of the third floor while marking his path with cold streaks. It is then we find out that and get confirmation that yes, the walls are constantly shifting around in the catacombs, as seen clearly in the following, quote, as I walked further, I cast my gaze to the ceiling. There was a black streak looking directly into my eyes. There's no mistaking it. It was the one I had drawn, but it was now on the ceiling? It was as if this place was moving. Last little side note, as the writer begins to go insane, they mention that the walls were, quote, made from the souls of people, implying that the walls are alive, but this could all just be the side effect of the writer's delirium, so we don't know for a fact. The final entry is named The Eye, which seems to give some insight and lore into the Watcher. It has been apparently watching the expedition progress throughout each floor, appearing once on floor 1, twice on floor 2, and again on floor 3, after the writer escapes from the battle. Each time it appears, it seems that only the writer could sense it, and that the Watcher was only interested in him. During the floor 3 battle, the writer could sense the powerful spirit before even Solomon, a mage of high caliber, knew what was coming. When the writer finally confronts the Watcher, he states the following about its strength, quote, so much power coming from this eye. It was far too strong for me to handle. Meaning that the Watcher is a being of incredible power. The two then exchange a dialogue with one another, with the Watcher speaking via telepathy. The Watcher describes the writer's mind as, quote, hard to read and sees him as special, before making its move onto the writer. Quote, as it got closer, I could feel its presence intensify. My sword was heavy and my knees were weak. The world collapsed on me as I fell. It is then that the Watcher reveals that the writer's name is Satan, the same name of the floor 6 boss in the present day. It is now that all the puzzle pieces of this entry fit together. In the lore text for floor 6, it says, quote, necromancy was always strong in his family. It says he once beat a wither in a duel, likes to brag. Which explains why he was the only one who could sense and see the Watcher, as well as sensing the powerful creature before Solomon in the floor 3 battle, due to his necromancer traits. This also means that at the very end there, the Watcher presumably converts Satan to join the side of the Wither King. The fact that Satan was a soldier too means that he was sure to be a capable fighter when we fight him on floor 6. Alright, so that's it for this speculation video / explanation of the Dungeon Journals. And what did you guys think of it? Let me know in the comments below, and while you're down there, be sure to leave a like, click subscribe, and share the video with others if you thought it was good. Alright, and don't stop gaming, guys. Peace out.